You've finally arrived at your turning point, that sacred threshold where everything begins to shift in your life. Listen closely. There's a reason you're here, right now, hearing these words. The universe has a mysterious way of placing mirrors in front of us, but it only does so when we're truly ready to see what's been waiting on the other side, to witness the reflection that reveals who we're becoming. You wake up one day, and your world looks exactly the same, but it doesn't feel the same. The people, the places, the routines, they're all still there, but they no longer hold you the way they used to. Something's off, something's different, and no one around you can quite see it, but you can't unfeel it. That's not confusion. That's transition. That subtle tension in your chest, that fog behind your thoughts, that sudden desire to break the rules you created for yourself years ago. It's not a crisis. It's an invitation. The universe doesn't always knock on your door with clarity. Sometimes it arrives as a whisper behind your thoughts, a feeling you can't name, a restlessness that doesn't make sense until it does. You've felt it lately, haven't you? Like there's a version of you that's already moving, already changing, already evolving, and you're barely keeping up. You try to ignore it, to reason it away, to distract yourself with logic and schedules. But in the quiet, it grows louder, not in sound, in presence, in weight, in pull. And you know deep down that something has already begun. This is not just emotional turbulence. This is a quantum transition, a recalibration of timelines. The field around you, the very fabric of possibility, has started to shift. Your frequency is no longer a match for what you used to call normal. And because of that, your current reality is beginning to dissolve, not with violence, but with silence. It's not falling apart. It's letting go. And what you're feeling right now is the space between. This space is sacred. It's the void, the womb of new realities, the place where your next self begins to take form. But here's the trap. Most people run from the void. They label it as stuck. They panic in the silence. They try to fix what isn't broken just because it isn't comfortable, but not you. You're here. You're listening, which means part of you already knows. This isn't the end. This is the initiation. The reason you feel disconnected from your routines is because they were built for a version of you that no longer exists. The rituals, the relationships, the responsibilities, they were aligned with who you were, not with who you're becoming. And that version of you is beginning to echo louder, not with demands, but with resonance, with a frequency that says, remember, you don't need a breakdown to change. You don't need a disaster. You only need to be still enough to hear what's already shifting. And that's what makes this moment so powerful. Not that something is about to happen, but that something already has. The change isn't coming. It's here. You're not waiting for your life to begin. You're standing in the exact second it already did. But the old reality won't let go without a whisper. It will try to pull you back with comfort. It will seduce you with familiarity. It will remind you of everything you used to value, everything that once made you feel safe, and now makes you feel trapped. That's not weakness. That's your system recalibrating. Your nervous system is detoxing from a lifetime of survival habits. Let it. Breathe through it. Observe it. But don't mistake it for truth. Because here's what the mind won't tell you. Discomfort is data. It means your energy is moving faster than your circumstances. It means the field is stretching. It means your higher self has already said yes, and your body is catching up. And when that happens, the world around you might not shift immediately. But you will. And that's where it all begins. You see, we've been conditioned to believe that change has to come with fireworks, with big signs, with perfect timing. But in quantum reality, the greatest shifts are quiet. They arrive when you're washing dishes, driving to work, sitting in silence wondering why your chest feels tight and your dreams feel close but far at the same time. That's not random. That's a signal. That's alignment forming in the unseen. And if you've been asking for a sign, this is it. Not because these words are magic, but because your readiness is. You wouldn't even be here, reading this, feeling this, recognizing this, if you weren't already inside the transformation. This isn't the beginning of your shift. This is the recognition of it. And recognition is how energy collapses into form. The observer effect in quantum mechanics teaches us that reality responds to awareness. So when you become aware that you are in transition, the transition accelerates. So here's what I want you to know. You're not lost. You're not behind. You're not broken. You're expanding. You're stepping out of the timeline you've outgrown and into the one that's been waiting for you to notice it. That version of you, they're already alive in the field. They've been whispering through your discomfort, nudging you through your boredom, inviting you through your fatigue. And now you're listening. Now you're seeing. Now you're remembering. In the next few minutes, we'll explore why the people around you might not understand what you're feeling, and why that's not a mistake but a confirmation. Because when you stop resonating with your old reality, it doesn't mean you're losing your place. It means you're being repositioned. One of the most painful yet profound parts of awakening is the moment you realize the people around you might not come with you, not because they're wrong, not because they're bad, but because they're not vibrating at the same frequency you're starting to remember. And that realization doesn't just create space, it creates grief. A quiet mourning for the version of you who fit in, who blended, who was easy to explain. But the truth is, that version was never the whole story. You weren't born to be understood. You were born to become. And becoming requires dissonance. It requires the discomfort of outgrowing what once made perfect sense. That friend who no longer gets you. That job that used to feel fulfilling. That life path that once seemed clear and now feels hollow. These aren't losses. They're reflections. They're the energetic evidence that your internal frequency has shifted. And because of that, what you attract, what you tolerate, what you magnetize, it all begins to recalibrate. In the language of quantum mechanics, this is coherence versus decoherence. When your internal signal becomes too dissonant from your environment, the field begins to break alignment with your current reality. You feel this as boredom, fatigue, frustration, even loneliness. But it's not punishment. It's resonance making space for what truly matches you now. And it's in this phase, the space between who you were and who you're becoming, that the universe will often test your courage. Not through chaos, but through silence. People will say, "You've changed." They'll ask, "What's wrong?" They'll worry about you, not because something's broken, but because your transformation threatens their stability. And here's the part no one prepares you for. Sometimes, your shift will activate their fear. Not because you meant to, but because when one person in a system starts to grow, the whole system feels it. Your evolution becomes a mirror, and not everyone is ready to see what they've been avoiding in themselves. So what do? You breathe, you ground, you listen, and you don't shrink. You don't apologize for your evolution. You don't explain away your expansion. You learn to walk through the valley of invisibility with grace, knowing that your alignment is not up for debate. You're not here to be easily categorized. You're here to be a frequency, a vibration, a living, breathing example of what happens when someone chooses truth over comfort, alignment over approval, inner resonance over external validation. And yes, that path is quieter, at times lonelier, but it's also more magnetic, because once you become a vibrational match to your higher timeline, the field begins to collapse coincidences into synchronicities. The right people, the right conversations, the unexpected openings. They don't arrive before your shift, they arrive because of it. The irony is this: as you grow, you may feel more invisible to your old world and more visible to your real one. The one that was always waiting for you to show up as your actual self. Not the curated version, not the masked version, but the version that doesn't need to explain why they're drawn to silence, to depth, to expansion. That version is already forming, and it's drawing to itself a new ecosystem, one built on resonance, not reputation. Here's what most people don't understand about quantum change. It doesn't start with outer transformation. It starts with a frequency split. Your consciousness begins to vibrate at a new rate, and your old reality can no longer sustain itself. This is why relationships fade, why passions shift, why you can no longer pretend things feel good when they don't. The mismatch becomes unbearable. Because your soul knows what it used to tolerate was survival, not alignment. You're not crazy, you're not dramatic. You're just awakening to what your system has always known, but what your mind had to forget to fit in. And now, it's time to remember. You don't need everyone to understand. You need to understand yourself. You need to honor the quiet knowing that's been rising through your discomfort. The part of you that says, I'm not lost, I'm just shedding. This is your permission, not from me but from the field, to let go of the need to be understood, to walk your path with reverence, even if no one claps, to trust that your alignment is creating ripples that others may not see yet, but that will shape their world in ways they'll feel when they're ready. You're not here to be what makes sense. You're here to be what resonates. And in the next few minutes, we'll revisit the story of your past, not as a weight to carry, but as a map of every frequency that brought you to this shift. Because when you see your past through quantum eyes, you'll realize nothing was wasted, and everything was preparing you for this precise sacred now. There's a moment in your spiritual evolution when you stop looking at your past with resentment and start seeing it as raw material. That shift alone changes everything. Because when you begin to understand that nothing you went through was wasted, you stop trying to escape your story and begin to integrate it. The scars, the confusion, the mistakes you thought ruined everything. They weren't accidents. They were initiations. They didn't happen to break you. They happened to shape you. The quantum field doesn't operate on morality. It doesn't reward or punish, it simply mirrors. And what you labeled as a failure, the field read as contrast, as calibration, as momentum in disguise. So when you revisit your past with awakened eyes, you stop seeing a graveyard of wrong turns and start seeing a treasure map, a sacred blueprint of every energetic thread that led you to this moment. And let's be honest, some of those threads felt unbearable. The heartbreak, the betrayal, the years of spinning your wheels, the jobs that drained you, the relationships that shrank you, the silence you had to sit through when no one believed in your dreams. All of it was preparing your frequency. Because when you begin to operate on a quantum level, you realize that alignment isn't about circumstances. It's about vibration. And sometimes, the fastest way to stabilize a higher frequency is to burn through every lower one. Not because you needed to suffer, but because the old self had to be witnessed, fully, before it could be released. Think of your past not as a collection of moments, but as training. Every version of you that doubted, settled, avoided, or ran was practicing contrast, practicing misalignment, so that when alignment finally clicked, you would recognize it instantly, without hesitation, without self-sabotage, with the depth of someone who's earned their clarity through fire. This is why the universe doesn't rush, because it's not trying to deliver outcomes, it's helping you become the person who can hold them. And that becoming, it required everything, every delay, every detour, every "why is this happening to me" moment was actually a portal to "now I understand." And even if you're not there yet, even if you still carry shame about the choices you made or the time you think you've lost, I want you to hear this. Nothing is wasted. Not a second, not a season, not a breakdown, especially not the breakdown. Because in quantum terms, breakdown is just deconstruction of incoherence, the unraveling of everything that no longer matches your true frequency. And once that unraveling happens, even if it looks like your life is falling apart, what's really happening is that your old vibrational scaffolding is collapsing to make room for a life that's not built on survival, but on sovereignty. You're not broken. You're remembering. You're not behind. You're being synchronized. And when you start to look at your past through this lens, you'll realize the timeline you thought was lost was never off track. It was spiraling, expanding, preparing you for a jump in awareness, a quantum leap that couldn't happen until your energy was mature enough to sustain it. So instead of regretting your past, honor it. See it as a rite of passage, an invisible university that trained you in the language of vibration. Every no taught you discernment. Every dead end taught you direction. Every loss cleared the frequency for what's aligned. Even your procrastination was information. It showed you where fear lived. Even your self-sabotage was sacred. It revealed what you didn't believe you deserved. Even your numbness was divine timing. It held space while your nervous system caught up. You've never been off your path. You've always been in rehearsal for the life that finally matches the truth of who you are. And if you're still doubting that, if there's a voice saying, but I wasted too much time, I invite you to go deeper. Because what you call wasted time, the universe calls quantum gestation. There is a version of you, already encoded in the field, that could only emerge after enough contrast, enough preparation, enough energetic pressure to birth the next octave of your selfhood. And that moment? It's not years away. It's here. Now. You're feeling it because the threshold has already been crossed. You're not waiting to arrive, you're realizing you're already in it. This shift, this remembering, is proof that everything before this wasn't punishment. It was programming, vibrational coding, the deeper software of your becoming. And in the next few minutes, you'll begin to feel that truth land in your body. As we explore how the universe whispers through discomfort, not to warn you, but to invite you, you'll see that your restlessness isn't a red flag. It's a recalibration. The signs have been around you all along, but now you're ready to read them. There's a moment in every transformation that doesn't feel like a breakthrough. It feels like confusion. Like you're standing in a room where everything looks familiar, but none of it feels right anymore. It's not chaos. It's not catastrophe. It's just off. Slightly. Quietly. Persistently. You can't explain it to anyone because there's nothing technically wrong. But inside, something is rearranging. That, right there, is the whisper, the sacred, subtle voice of your future timeline, calling you not with commands but with curiosity. The whisper never yells. It doesn't beg. It doesn't explain itself. It only echoes. Softly. Over and over. Through conversations you overhear. Through the sudden desire to clean your space. Through the flash of a memory you hadn't thought of in years. It moves through dreams. Through repeated numbers. Through the ache in your chest that shows up when you're pretending everything's fine. Most people ignore it. Not because they don't hear it, but because they're afraid it might be real. Afraid that if they actually followed it, they'd have to let go of everything they've built just to feel safe. But you're not here for safety. You're here for truth. And truth never shouts. It whispers. Because the real ones don't force their way in. They wait to be invited. That feeling you've been having lately. That subtle discontent. That quiet hunger for something else. It's not random. It's not anxiety. It's not a phase. It's your timeline speaking. The one that already exists in the quantum field. The one where you're fully expressed, fully free, fully alive. That timeline is already vibrating, and what you're feeling is resonance. In physics, when two frequencies align, they amplify. That's what's happening to you. The longer you sit with the whisper, the louder it gets. Not in decibels, in presence, in weight. It starts to color your day. You notice it in the space between your thoughts. You feel it when you pause before making the same old choice. You start to question things you never questioned before, and that's when the invitation becomes undeniable. The field is not punishing you with discomfort. It's aligning you through it. Because until the old timeline becomes uncomfortable, you won't release it. You won't outgrow it. You'll stay loyal to it out of habit, not resonance. That's why the whisper gets louder in stillness, not to scare you, but to remind you that change doesn't begin in action. It begins in permission. And this is that moment. If you've been looking for a sign, for confirmation, for validation that it's okay to want more, this is it. The whisper is not an idea. It's an invitation. Not to fix yourself, but to return to yourself. Not to start over, but to start aligned. The next version of you won't be built in public. It will be sculpted in silence, in sacred micro-decisions, in the spaces where you choose resonance over routine. Every time you listen to the whisper, instead of the noise, you collapse a new possibility into form. That's not just poetic. That's quantum, because reality doesn't respond to what you say. It responds to what you resonate. And when you begin to honor the whisper, you become a new signal in the field. One that says, I'm no longer available for what doesn't align. That signal attracts different people, different outcomes, different timelines, not because you forced them, but because you finally matched them. And right now you have a choice, not a big, dramatic, life-altering decision, just one subtle shift to honor what you've been hearing in the silence. Comment below. I hear the invitation. I'm ready for the shift. Say it not for me, but for you, for your field, for the part of you that's been whispering all along, just waiting for a signal back. This moment, this very moment, is more than just you watching a video. It's a vibrational agreement, a sacred yes to what has always been waiting for you. Once you stop needing it to make sense. Because the whisper will never make logical sense. It speaks the language of the soul, of vibration, of knowing without evidence. And if you follow it, you won't just change your life. You'll change your timeline. In the next few minutes, we'll explore why that whisper often comes with fear, and how that fear isn't a warning but a signal that you're close. So close, in fact, that your old identity is beginning to dissolve. Because the new self isn't coming someday. It's already here. You just have to be still enough to let it in. There's a strange paradox in the process of awakening. The closer you get to the version of yourself you've always longed to become, the more terrified you feel. It doesn't make sense on the surface. After all, isn't this what you wanted? Isn't this what you asked for in your late-night journaling? In your silent prayers? In those aching moments where you whispered to the stars, I'm ready? And yet, now that it's here, now that you're at the very edge of what could change your life forever, your chest tightens, your breath shortens, and part of you wants to run back to what you know. But here's the secret. That fear, it's not a red flag. It's a signal. Not that you're in danger, but that you're in transition. Not that you should stop, but that you're about to collapse an entire version of reality into form. In quantum mechanics, there's a concept known as quantum tunneling, where a particle, against all odds, moves through a barrier it technically shouldn't be able to pass. Scientists still marvel at how it works. But spiritually, we've known for ages. When the soul is ready, laws bend, matter rearranges, and timelines reconfigure themselves to match the energy of a fully decided heart. The fear is the friction between the old frequency and the new one. It's the echo of the timeline you're leaving, pulling on your nervous system one last time. It whispers, don't change, don't leap, stay here where it's safe. But safety isn't the goal anymore. Expansion is. You see, your current identity, the one built from years of routines, beliefs, and survival, it doesn't know what exists beyond the threshold. And so it panics, not because something bad is coming, but because something unknown is. And the ego would rather stay in a predictable prison than walk blindfolded into paradise. But your soul, it already sees the view. It already knows what's on the other side. And that tension you feel, the anxiety, the doubt, the sudden urge to self-sabotage, it's your ego trying to preserve an outdated algorithm. One that says, this is who you are. This is how it's always been. But that's no longer true. And the fact that it feels so real is proof of how close you are to rewriting it. Here's how you know you're at the edge of a quantum jump. The fear isn't loud anymore. It's deep. It's layered. It doesn't scream. It lingers. It disguises itself as logic, as reasons to delay, as maybe I'm not ready yet. That's not wisdom. That's inertia. And it shows up strongest when the leap is nearest. Your new timeline is not something you create from scratch. It's something you tune into. And tuning means letting go of static, the noise of the past, the doubt of the present, the illusions of control. Every time you feel fear rise, take a breath, not to escape it, but to notice it, to realize it's just the membrane between dimensions. And the closer you are to passing through, the thicker it feels. But you weren't built to break at the threshold. You were built to cross it. And the beautiful thing about quantum transitions is that they don't require certainty. They only require coherence. You don't need to know how it will work. You only need to vibrate as if it already has. Because in the field, it already has. The version of you that lives this new reality, they're already real, already operating, already sending signals backward through time, through energy, through intuition, reaching out to the current you, saying, "Don't stop here. We're so close." You'll notice strange things start to happen the closer you get. Old friends will distance themselves. Sudden opportunities will appear and disappear, testing your trust. Your body might ache. Your sleep might shift. Your emotions may swing wildly. That's not instability. That's calibration. Your entire system, physical, energetic, emotional, is synchronizing to a new frequency. And anything that doesn't match, it falls away. Let it. Let the habits fall. Let the distractions crumble. Let the roles you've outgrown dissolve in silence. Because what's rising through the fear is your actual life. Not the one you were trained to settle for, but the one you were encoded to live. And this moment, this trembling, terrifying, exhilarating moment, this is what it feels like to choose it. Not just with your words, but with your entire field. So if you're scared right now, my good, it means you're close. It means you're no longer running in circles, but pressing against the wall between timelines. And that wall, it's thinner than it looks. All you have to do is feel the fear and move anyway. Not with force, but with trust, with presence, with the quiet conviction that this isn't just a phase. It's a portal, and the real version of you is waiting on the other side, not with answers, but with alignment. In the next few minutes, we'll land this journey with a truth that most people miss. The shift isn't coming, it's already happened. And what you do now is remember. And if you're ready to go deeper, to stabilize this shift with grounded practice and sacred precision, I have something that will help you hold this vibration longer, with more clarity and power. There's a lie most of us have believed, that the transformation we seek is somewhere in the distance, just a little further, just one more breakthrough, just one more book, one more course, one more sign from the universe. But what if the shift you've been waiting for has already happened? What if this discomfort, this unrest, this undeniable feeling that something is changing, isn't a precursor to the shift, but evidence that you're already in it? Because here's the truth. The shift doesn't come with fireworks. It comes in whispers. It arrives when you stop chasing and start aligning. When you stop asking, when will it happen? And start realizing, it already has. Right now, your life is no longer what it was. It may look the same on the outside, on same apartment, same job, same relationships, but internally, a new frequency is taking root. You've said yes to something deeper, and even if you're still figuring out what that looks like, the field has already responded. Reality doesn't wait for you to be ready. It responds to who you are now. And the fact that you're here, still watching, still breathing, still listening to this, that's not just curiosity, that's coherence. Something inside you knows. This moment matters. The field has heard you. You've already crossed the vibrational threshold. And now, the only thing left to do is walk it out. Don't expect dramatic shifts overnight. Expect alignment. Subtle realignments in thought, in choice, in how you speak to yourself. The shift isn't an event. It's a frequency, And the more you stabilize it, the more your external world bends to match your internal truth. This is what spiritual maturity looks like: holding the vibration before the results show up, trusting the frequency before the manifestation arrives, knowing that the field rearranges reality based not on your effort, but on your embodiment. So let me ask you this. What would you do today if you knew without a doubt that your new timeline was already activated? Would you still doubt yourself? Would you still wait for permission? Would you still feed the stories that say, "You're not ready yet"? Or would you breathe deeper? Speak with more clarity? Say no to what drains you, even if it's comfortable? Would you stop managing your life and start inhabiting it, like someone who knows they are no longer who they used to be? Because that's the invitation. That's what the field is holding open right now. Not a promise for later, a portal for now. And no, you don't need to have it all figured out. Yes, your nervous system might still shake, but you're allowed to live inside the becoming. You're allowed to show up messy, unsure but present. Because the shift is not about perfection. It's about presence, about becoming more real than your fear, more coherent than your chaos, more trusting than your trauma. And if you need support holding this frequency, if you want to deepen your awareness, ground your practice, and move from inspiration into sustained transformation, then I've created something for you. Awaken Your Quantum Power is not just a book. It's an activation. A guide for those who are done waiting and ready to step fully into the field, not with theory, but with embodiment. It was written for moments exactly like this one, when your soul whispers louder than your doubt and all that's left is action. You'll find the link in the pinned comment below. Take your time, or don't. But know this, the field has already shifted, and now, so have you. You didn't just watch a video, you participated in a timeline. And whether you feel it fully or just taste the edge of it, your future self is already celebrating. Because today, you remembered. You remembered that it was never about trying harder. It was about tuning in, listening, saying yes to the version of you who's always been waiting, not in the distance, but in the silence. The shift isn't coming. It's here,